Welcome to a City Voices interview with Audrey di Mola. And she is an artist. Well, she does art. I don't know if she even know. I don't know. She directs, she dances, she writes, and she lectures. She does a lot of stuff, but I don't know if she would consider herself like a master of these things. I don't know. So so here she is, and is there anything I missed?
Oh my God. I love that you backtracked immediately. You're like, wait a minute, I'm not sure. Thank you so much for that intro. Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I've been playing around with identifying words lately, and actually the three ones that have gotten shaken up to the surface are mythopoet, psychopomp, and interbeing. You expected something like colloquial, like writer, storyteller. Didn't you?
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So, I've been trying to get you on recording for a while, and
Yes.
You were going through stuff. Is that too private to start with?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess, Dan, you and I crossed paths in November 2020, right? That was the IDA event that I did, which is the Institute for the Development of Human Arts. And thanks to my partner at the time and the wonderful Jesse Roth, we got to do How to Convert Your Life into Legend Inside the Hero's Journey with me, which was really an experience I won't forget, because it was this crystallization of what has kept me on this earth, essentially, you know, which is myth and story, and the freedom and the courage to recontextualize the narrative that we are given as, you know, neurodivergent or supposedly mentally ill beings, that we have a lot more say in our story. And for me, the maps came through the old stories, myths. So that's what that event was about, and got to kind of just dive, you know, right into the bottom and talk to people about that. And then Noah and I broke up promptly, no, in December. And then like the journey has just deepened from then. Like the past 6 months have been wild as all hell. Literally, even like there's just one more wild piece on top of another. You know, I joined an incredible storytelling circle based in the UK, which has allowed me that kind of mythical dojo that I was looking for, to listen to and learn how to really carry these old stories. In April, I was blessed by the land to leave my job that I have worked at for 5 years. My brother is splitting our family for the first time and moving to California. I fell in love with one of the storytellers in my international group. So a lot has happened, Dan.
Do you fall in love easily?
Yes, I do.
What is it about falling in love easily?
It's something I've had to make peace with, to be honest, and just kind of realize, like, that's my jam. That's what I do, you know? And to not have regrets about it, because so many of the beautiful lessons and growth and change in my life have come through those doorways, have come through these men that I've been in relationship with and fallen in love with. But it's been very interesting to fall in love with someone on the other side of a screen. in a pandemic. So yeah, it really has been pushing. I think these months have really been pushing my bounds of who I am, what feeling is, what touch is, what understanding is, how much can happen through a screen, as we all have learned in the pandemic. Just really pushing the bounds of possibility of being a human, which is also my shit.
How has quarantine treated you?
It really gave me the pause that I needed. It was really strange, Dan, because right before COVID kind of emerged in New York, I was having these feelings inside myself, obviously without knowing that a pandemic is going to land upon us. I was having these feelings of slowing and getting low to the ground. And it was very strange because in my life, I've usually been fast, you know, very forceful, very driven. And just this really big feeling like you need to pause, you need to get low to the ground. And so I felt like I was being prepared for what was coming. And it was very strange to kind of reconcile that of like, wow, my body and my spirit was telling me that before it even came to pass. So a lot of growth and a lot of peace and a lot of listening and a lot of rigorous self-practice came out of quarantine. And of course, like with the storytelling circle, you know, getting to be close with people that are not in your proximity, you know, people who live all over the world. So it's just really changed how I relate to myself. And I think, you know, it was a necessary moment. The job that I had, I worked as the director of public programs for a park. So I was doing events all the time. And my life was just fast, a lot of stuff in addition to my mental health and wellness journey. So that pause was the first pause that I had in years, like a real pause.
You mentioned the pause helped growth so that you could be ready for the next phase in your these are my interpretation. The next phase in your evolution. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I think that all of these kind of wild feeling seeming changes, yeah, the ground of it came during this pause because I was able to really dig in. And also after my breakup in December, really honing in on what is self-care, you know, what is self-love, what is doing these long-standing patterns that I've held in my life, how do I do it differently? So I was able to work with an amazing somatic experiencing practitioner, which has changed my life. Started doing talk therapy again. I did IFS therapy, internal family systems therapy, for the first time, and working in story. And these are the things that are kind of leading me onward to give up this job right now for self-care and healing. And at the beginning of this interview, right, you're asking like, what are my titles? And I feel like I'm in a very shape-shifting moment right now. I'm in a moment where I don't know what's coming next. I don't have a job lined up.
Isn't that scary, not knowing what's coming next?
This is life, my friend. Of course it's scary, but life expands or contracts in proportion to one's courage. Anais Nin said that, not me.
So where is your energy and where would you like it to be?
Oh, beautiful.
In your body.
Yeah. I have a slanting towards very scattered energy. And so my work, I feel like, is to, I learned this through myth, this kind of beautiful turn of phrase of the word remembering, remembering. remembering, as in the opposite of being dismembered. So how do I remember myself? How do I pull my energy from all of these places that it has been scattered to? Very much in the way, you know, thinking of myth again, Osiris and Isis. After Seth dismantled Osiris's body, scattered him, you know, to the four winds, it was Isis, it was the goddess who methodically went with her sister to try and find all the pieces of him to put him back. That's where I feel like I am right now. So I want my energy to like be here.
And you're, oh, like straight from the top to the bottom, right down the middle?
Right here, like here with a capital H, right? Because then I can move anywhere because the center will hold. I think that's been a big part of my wellness journey and mental health journey. Yeah, it's remembering myself and finding a center.
Wow, that's something to like really, you know, grok, you know, it's something to really
I love that.
grok in fullness, really. That'll take some time. I'm gonna be in the fetal position after this interview, barely breathing, just like my heartbeat just going like once a minute, and just trying to grok all this. You read Stranger in a Strange Land, right?
No.
Oh, I recommend it. It was written in like the 60s. It's Robert Heinlein, Heinlein, and it's Stranger in a Strange Land. I think you would really dig it. Okay.
Echo. Nice.
Oh, there's echo now?
No, I said thank you for that reco. No echo. We are so good, Dan.
All right. So Wounded Healers.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah. What does it take to be one? What does it take?
Surrender and courage and willingness to accept what comes to you and the shape that you are in. And I love this word shape, and I really started using it because of two myth tellers, Danny Deardorff and Martin Shaw. They talk about this word a lot. And I like it very much instead of condition or circumstance or even reality. It's just the shape that you are in is your shape. And I think being a wounded healer, the only way to come to that place where you understand your wound as your gift is to really dip in to yourself deeply and see that shape and witness that shape and want to understand that shape and want to love that shape, or just to be open to that shape loving you, to that shape understanding you. Something has to happen in you, because if you stay in a narrative in which you are cursing yourself for the shape that you're in, and when I say shape, I mean everything about who you are, right? If you have a diagnosis of something, or, you know, some kind of dis-ease, some kind, you know, the place that you live, the skin that you're in, everything about like who you are is your shape for me. And to just accept that you are that way for a reason. And inside that shape is a riddle, the riddle of your life, the reason why you're here. And you could not live into that reason if you were not this person. So the more I stopped trying to change myself, fix myself, cure myself, the more the mystery of my own life and soul and shape has been leading me. And there's only been more life there, more and more and more life.
There's a quote from a philosopher, a modern day philosopher, who said, human beings, he said, Human beings are the universe. I'm paraphrasing here.
All
The,
good.
the universe in a the the universe manifesting in a human body for a finite period of time.
Yes.
Something like that. And that was Eckhart Tolle. I don't know how you feel about him, but
I love him.
oh, good, good.
I love him. It took me time to love him. I will be honest with that. It like 3 years ago, even my partner loved Eckhart Tolle and we would listen to him in the car, and I'd be like, he talks too slow, and he's triggering the fuck out of me all the time.
Oh, shit.
And like, but funnily enough, you were asking me about the pause in the pandemic. In those early days when I was bottoming out in what was happening, it was Eckhart Tolle's voice that I was listening to that was giving me mad comfort. So sometimes, right, it takes time to hear those words. And I think that's something I would also offer. Like, sometimes we're just not ready to receive something, but that doesn't mean we can't put it down and pick it up later and revisit it, because we're always changing and we always have new capacity to hear things. So I was so grateful for his slow and methodical voice and his teachings during that time.
What is the best way to understand this universe?
Ooh, through yourself. That's an amazing question. That's an amazing question. I think the beautiful thing about humans is that we're always trying to figure stuff out, but that's also, it's a danger, I think, to try and have all the answers. You know, I think that our ancestors lived with and by and alongside the great mystery. And there was something reverenced about that I think we've lost. You know, we have phones in our hands that tell us all the answers. You know, we have, like, even we can't get lost because we have GPS. You know, what about the not knowing? That's been the biggest thing in my journey, to lean into the great mystery, lean into the not knowing. And again, accept that.
Well, what happens to an individual who has their GPS on their phone and then it suddenly cracks and they're lost? What does that feel like?
That's a beautiful metaphor for the human experience, I think. I think what you just described is like a fertile, life-changing moment in someone's path. Because if we make this a metaphor, it's not actual GPS. It's like the way that we think we're going, our path that we think that we have, and we think we know where we're going, and we're going to work, and we're doing this thing. And then something happens, like you said, the GPS breaks, the phone cracks, and then we are a stranger in a strange land, right? But I think, again, it's like when we let ourselves be with our feelings in that moment, the fucking real terror, the absolute terror and dismantlement of systems, structures, right? The way that I thought I was going, that has just, but something happens if we give ourselves to that and we offer that terror and we offer that smallness that we feel and that loss that we feel, because we can start listening. We can start listening in ways that we've forgotten how to, you know? And I think that terror and that bewilderment and that not knowing is a part of it. And I think we're very quick to push that away and rationalize it away and want to have a solution for it and an answer. And there's something that happens in that middle space, in that pause of like, okay, I don't know which way to go, and I don't have this thing that was telling me, but what happens when I dip into my body and I let my instincts lead me? And I try and remember that my body has so much wisdom in it, and it can show me things. Like, one of my favorite things to do, Dan, that I was doing a lot during the first lockdown, was just taking wandering walks and leaving my phone at home. And even though, yeah, I'm not in like a total strange land, but I was letting my feet just carry me. And there were, and I began to recognize the split between the rational mind, the mind that is thinking and needing to understand, and the body and the soul. Because I would be going somewhere and I'd be like, why are we going this way? There's nothing here, you know? Why are like, we need to go this way. But when I told my mind to kind of sit in the back seat for a second, the places my body would lead me, there would be something there I needed to see, a sign, something in nature, some kind of, something that my mind could not predict. So I'm really into that and playing with that.
So you still leave your phone at home sometimes to go on these walkabouts?
Yeah, I do.
How often do you do it?
I do. Pretty often. And the other thing that's great about them is that it pushes me to not take pictures of everything or not Instagram everything. I have like my whole life on Instagram, so it's really good to literally be on this walk and see something and want to reach for my phone and be like, oh, I don't have it. Guess I just need to be with this moment. Guess I just need to. And it's funny because there are things that have happened to me in my life, Dan, and things that I've seen that I did not have a camera to record with, and I remember them. I can see them still. It's like, oh, I didn't need the camera for that weekend, or I didn't need the camera for that afternoon. They just become a part of you.
Memories.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much can we, how accurate, how truthful are memories to the realities of what actually happened?
Great question. One of my favorite quotes is in this book called Proust Was a Neuroscientist.
Who?
Proust, Marcel Proust.
Okay.
It was really cool because I haven't finished reading the book still in all these years, but they have like cultural figures, including like a chef and a writer, and they tie this cultural artistic identity of this person into something in science. So the author was trying to say what Proust was getting at in his work, In Search of Lost Time, etc., was this actual notion, the reality that a memory is altered every time you recollect it. And that sentence for me was so beautiful and so heartbreaking. That literally, like, that's kind of the question that you were just asking, right? Of like, yeah, how accurate are memories? They aren't. We change them, right? And every time we think of them, they are, I don't want to say degrading, but they're transforming,
Knowing this, how does it help? Does this help in any way in coping with something like as serious as PTSD?
Interesting. That's really interesting. I would say with PTSD, what lights up for me is the somatic experience and what is being held inside your body and locked and frozen, right? Because I think that if this is true, right, if memories can be plastic, that is hopeful, but there is something about trauma that gets stuck in us. And these things don't move, right? They do, in fact, they like calcify. They like, I would even say, I really like this question because I think of like trauma that's happened in my life, right? And I feel like whenever that trauma lights up, it's like the same thing lighting up, right? If I have a memory of, I let go of a daughter when I was 18, I had an abortion, right? When I think of that experience of being in the hospital, it's that experience, right? I can't change it. It's like stuck in me. But there's something that happens when we do this kind of somatic work in the body, that IFS therapy work, when we can go into our body and meet these things and work with them and complete these trauma cycles or bring something else to it. I was fascinated with Peter Levine, who originated somatic experiencing, who is comparing the animal experience to the human experience, and how animals, when something traumatic happens to them, like say a gazelle is being chased by a lion, right? And they're running and running and running, and it's a close call, right? Almost gets pounced on, but doesn't. This gazelle doesn't go to therapy for the next 10 years to talk about this near-death experience of being chased by a lion. It completes the trauma cycle by shaking out the energy. The animal literally shakes itself. And it's like, because but it's the same thing that happens to us, but the difference is that all this energy is built from this trauma, this terror, and we keep it. And it's frozen inside of us.
Why do we keep it?
I feel like a lot of reasons. Probably because we haven't been taught otherwise. We haven't been taught that there is such thing as a cycle, you know? And I think, like, I don't know. It's a great question too. I think also that we have, I'm like the cerebellum, no. We have.
Well, I don't know is a great answer too.
Hey, thank you.
That was your first answer.
That is my first answer. But I like exploring, so that's why I'm exploring. Because we have our human rational mind also that is trying to keep us safe, right? And that so many things that we do are survival mechanisms. That literally, if my mind didn't do this, if my mind didn't help me disassociate, if my mind didn't help me do this thing that I needed, I would have died. I would have died from shock, stress, overload. So it's, you know, so I think there's different things in play with the complexity of the human spirit and the human mind. But I'm fascinated by what can happen, like you're saying, with these additions of knowledge, right? Of like, okay, there is such a thing as a trauma cycle. What do I do with that knowledge? There is such a thing as memories being plastic and our minds being plastic. What do I do with that?
What is a trauma cycle?
Yeah, I would say literally I'm like imagining it as a circle, and kind of like from the point of that trauma happening to you, imagine traveling to a place where there could be resolution, or it can just get stuck in you. Like, I don't know why I'm thinking of like a car accident or something happening, right? Instead of letting that energy out in some way or going into the body where it is, we just keep it.
Can we literally shake like a gazelle, like right after an accident or a traumatic experience? Can we literally do that? Does that help? It might, right?
Also a great question.
Have you ever tried that?
I have been shaking a lot since I found out about this. I haven't had a like blunt force trauma, right? To like, because yeah, then your body is doing its own level of something happening. But I keep it in my mind because what I've been noticing is how much I do hold things inside. And I think it also comes from a wanting to, okay, stay calm, just, you know, but it's like, why am I holding this all into myself? Why can't I let this go? Why can't I say, this is bigger than me and this energy needs to leave?
The energy of terror is tremendous.
Yeah.
It's bigger than we are.
Yes.
And sometimes it just gets, I don't know, funneled into us. We get overwhelmed by it. And, you know, and it seems like it's a visitor that likes to stay for a little bit. You know, it's not like, oh, hi, terror. Now, bye, terror.
Yes. You're right. I think that some of the most interesting things with these practices, though, is like, and I learned this through this dance and ritual practice called Koya. They do shaking in their methodology of literally like free dance and authentic movement. And she invites people into shaking with this same story, the story about the gazelle and the lion. And it's funny because without all of this knowledge of trauma and all of this, right, just literally coming into the body and seeing simply, shake your right hand and shake it for like, you know, shake it for a while.
Oh man, that feels good.
And then it's like, just shake it, 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 and then stop and compare with what it feel with what the left hand feels like.
Oh,
Something has happened here.
there's
right?
the tingling, there's the blood flow, there's energy movement.
Yes, and I think that's the thing, right? To keep that cycle moving instead of stopping it dead and freezing it. I think there's so much we still don't even know about the intelligence of our bodies, and something just like that, it's like, why does that make me feel better? I don't know, it does.
Isn't this like similar to the philosophy of yoga?
Sure, to move the energy.
Yeah. And
Yes.
and the yogis believe that, well, the yogis practice because it brings them to a spiritual enlightenment. If one practices long enough and with the right heart and mind, that's I get. It's not a goal. We're already enlightened.
Well, what I love about yoga, though, right? It's the same thing of like embracing your shape. And it's funny that you mention it. I worked at a yoga studio for like 2 years, not as a teacher, Poppy.
Yeah.
Not as a teacher, but front desk, but just being around yoga teachers, right? As like some of my closest friends, and you realize that, we have this conception of yoga as like, the purpose of it is to hit all the postures. The purpose of it is to do it perfectly. The purpose of it is to balance. The purpose of it, and it's like, it's not. The purpose of it is to teach you how to be with yourself in every moment, and to come to the mat as you are. And if you fall, and if you're freaking the fuck out, whatever it is, it's that commitment to showing up. Here I am on my mat. That's what I love about yoga.
What does it mean to surrender in every moment?
Ooh, that's something that really, we've been talking about terror. It's terrifying to do that because you kind of remember that your life is not totally your own.
Because especially like the challenges when terror is like, hey, my friend, and then you're like, oh, I'm supposed to surrender to this?
I think in those moments, like, and I'm just going to speak for myself, right? Of like, the immediacy is to scatter outward, right? Something is making you afraid. I got to escape, right? And that's fight or flight. There we go, right? Or just to freeze and literally to just like, until this is over. Mm-hmm. But what can we do to bring ourselves into the present with this terror? To literally see it and sit with it. And maybe even often, Dan, what I've been doing in those moments is, I feel like it's not the same as freeze, but it is just like, just be here. You don't need to like run. You don't need to how can we just sit here and breathe? And literally like ask myself, because that's the thing. It feels like there is more presence in my body and in myself now than there's ever been. There is some intelligence in me that I can ask, what do you need? What should I do? That's not asking the mind. It's asking the body. And often these somatic gestures are what makes me feel better, right? Like suddenly I find squeezing my shoulders helps me so much, right? Massaging my hand, massaging my feet, even like tapping on my heart space. These things that we don't know why we're doing them, but suddenly we do them and then something shifts, something transforms. And I think when we don't allow that trauma cycle, when we don't allow the energy to keep moving, it stops. And the grace in life is letting things transform. because they do transform, and they transform in ways that we and I cannot understand or see or anticipate.
So is the goal to flow with whatever life throws at you?
I think it has to be, you know, because as a person who spent so many years just in resistance, constantly fighting, constantly in resistance, it'll kill you slowly or quickly. It drains your energy. It warps your sense of yourself, right? Because you always want something else than where you are and what you have. If I could not be this person, you know, for me, my experience has been violent emotional up and downs, and still is. It's just a part of who I am. But if I can be with that and try to have compassion for that and move from that as a fact, as a grounding, instead of trying to fix it somehow or wishing that I was normal, right? How many times do we wish we were normal? It's like,
Oh man.
there's no such thing.
Yeah.
We are this shape, you know, with these predilections and leanings and feelings.
Did you read Dune?
No, but I love that movie because Sting looks so hot. Anyway.
Yes, he was hot. He was hot in that. I'll give you that. But
What makes you think of that?
Because in the book, and it's also in the film, in the Lynch film, there's something that the Bene Gesserits call the litany of fear, and it's something that they say to themselves when terror is looming. And I don't know it. I can't. And if I paraphrase it, I'm gonna F it up so bad. But you can look it up. Litany of Fear.
That is so cool.
And I think you'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. I think I'm gonna need it for these next days.
All right, all right. Well, you know, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for me. I'm praying for everybody, because this is not just an experience that's unique to anyone. It's something that's so universal to the human experience. But you know, frequently I see it all the time, people distracting themselves with every little thing they can possibly distract themselves. Drugs, food, television, internet, whatever. And you know, it's in that silence that these things start to surface. And even if there is no silence, they will still surface.
True.
You just will be less prepared.
There's hold on, let me read you this. What you just said reminded me of this. This is my last book, the Book of Legend, and this is a quote from the Gnostic Gospels, the Gospel of Thomas. If you bring forth that which is within you, then that which is within you will be your salvation. If you do not bring forth that which is within you, then that which is within you will destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? that quote killed me when I read that, and I was like, that's it. That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
If you honor who you are, your shape, if you give your life to loving it and understanding it, it will give you the rest of your life. If you deny it, exile it, try and fix it, try and core it out of you, it's gonna get worse.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I think the longer I live, I see what a huge gesture of trust living is. A huge gesture of trust and a huge gesture of faith. And that's where the mystery is, that heals us and transforms us.